using the Liquify tools to distort an image in Photoshop. We're going to navigate to the Liquify features. To do that, I need to make sure my layer is active. And remember, it's always a very good idea to work off of a duplicate layer or to make a new document. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this layer. All right, and I can turn the original layer off. So I'm working off my copy. I'm going to go to the filter menu and I'm going to find Liquify. So remember, Liquify allows me to apply distortions to any rasterized layer. I get this Liquify dialog box. It's kind of a large preview window. Now when I look in this dialog box, my tools, my distortion tools are over here on the left side. My tool settings are over here on the right side, as is my OK and cancel. So I can only access these tools here regarding Liquify in the Liquify dialog box. So Liquify does get kind of wild and crazy. You can get some really weird distortions, to say the least. But you can also use it in a very conservative way. And so you can use it just to fix a little tiny flaw or just to tweak the image a little bit. You don't have to go crazy with it. Let's look at the different types of distortions. So we do have 7 different types of distortions. Let's start over here. I'm going to zoom in my window here at the bottom so you can see my little lizard. And I can use my space bar to move this around a bit so I can move around what's visible in my preview window. All right, so up here on the left side, my tooltip does come up. This is my forward warp tool. This pushes pixels forward during dragging. So when I drag the brush, it will push those pixels forward. Notice that I can choose a brush size, and you see I have a preview out here right now, if you can see my cursor, of my brush size. I also can adjust my pressure. So as I drag here, do you see how it is pushing those pixels? Let's increase the pressure so you can see this. And of course, this is going to really be more dramatic, and I'll increase my brush size just a little bit. So as I push, that's what's happening. Notice that all the pixels are moving as I hold my cursor down. Now, if I go the other way, I sort of distort them in the other direction, okay? So you can see what's happening there. Now I have a value with my size here, very, very large. So my brush size can get so large that I can't even see the dimensions there. So we're going to just click this somewhere in here, and I want to zoom in once more, and I'm using now my command or my control and my plus key to zoom in a bit. All right, so you can see I obviously have distorted my little lizard quite a bit. The next tool is actually a reconstruct tool, and this unpaints my recently distorted pixels, which is nice. So if I use this tool, and I just have to click and hold. I can click and drag if I want, but really I click and hold over an area. Look what happens. I'm going to just paint here, restoring this. You can see how this is all going back to what it once was. So the reconstruct tool is a way to undo. It unpaints the recently distorted pixels completely or partially. Notice how I just did a little bit of a drag. Let's go over here. Some of these pixels have been distorted, and I can just click and lightly drag over them and they will be adjusted. Next tools here, I have a pucker tool. So the pucker tool allows me to pull the pixels towards the center of the brush tip. So again, if I click in here, see how that brings it in. Little bit does a lot. So depending on how long I sit there, now I have a Control Z to undo here. If I just do it a little bit, it brings it in, and that actually looks fairly realistic. If I click and hold, obviously I can do some large distortions. So let's go back and do a undo here. Control Z. While I'm still in this box, I can do that. The next tool is the bloat tool, and this pushes pixels away from the center of the brush tip. See how it's getting larger? It's bloating it up. I also have, let's Control Z to get back to my original, the push left tool. Now this gets a little tricky. It moves the pixels perpendicular to the brush stroke. All right, so by perpendicular, if I click and drag, see how I'm dragging up, but it's moving them to the left. If I drag down, it moves it to the right. Kind of interesting. So say I wanted to make this be, let's go down to his tail. We want his tail to be a little bit thicker. I'm going to take my size of my brush down just a smidge so it fits the size of the tail a little bit better. And if I wanted it to be larger, I click and drag down. Interesting. Let's undo. If I wanted it to be smaller, I would click and drag as well. So depending on the side, when I click and drag on this, it moves it to the right. If I drag up, moves it to the left. Now on the other side, if I drag up, it's going to increase it. If I drag down, it's going to decrease it. So you can see some really interesting things, and that's how typically they talk about going on the Photoshop diet, because you can do some really cool things here as far as making something larger or smaller. The last tools here that I have is a hand tool and a zoom tool. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and there you can see my altered lizard from what it once was. A little bit of changes in the nose, a little bit of changes in the tail. So a better way to do this, let's turn this layer off, go to my original. A better way to use this Liquify tool is to create a smart object, because then my edits will be non-destructive. So if I right click, I can go to convert to smart object, or I can do that under the menu. I get my little icon here in the corner. When I go ahead and apply my Liquify filter now, or my Liquify effect now, the effects will be non-destructive. So then I can go ahead and play. Now there is an advanced mode here. If I check that, I get to see more controls, much more controls. So what I was showing you previously was very, very basic. So I can play with some of these advanced features, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Now when I have the advanced mode checkbox, just want to show you that I can use meshes. I can load a mesh, I can show a mesh, I can do all kinds of things here with the meshes. I can show a mask, I have some masking options, and I can show a backdrop. So a lot of different features here. One of the other additional features that I have over here is my freeze and my thaw. So I can freeze an area and I can thaw an area, and that will be covered in the next video.